Jake Martinez sat quietly in a large meeting room aboard Harmony Point, the biggest space station in this part of the galaxy. The room was full of different alien species, all talking in their own languages through small devices that turned their words into something everyone could understand. Jake kept his hands folded on the table in front of him, watching the other delegates with calm brown eyes. The Veltar delegation took up most of the space on the far side of the room. They were huge creatures, standing nearly 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin and 4 arms each. Their leader, War Commander Vekvar, had scars covering his face and arms. Every time he moved, his heavy armor made metal sounds that echoed in the room. The Veltar had been the strongest military force in this sector for over 1,000 years, and they wanted everyone to know it. "Human," Vekvar said, his voice deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "Your people have been in our space for 50 years now. You build your little colonies on worlds that should belong to warriors, not to soft creatures who hide behind words." Jake smiled politely. "War Commander, as we've discussed before, those worlds were unclaimed when our colonists arrived. The Galactic Council's laws clearly state that any species can settle on planets that have no existing claims. We followed all the proper procedures." The other aliens in the room watched this exchange with interest. The Zephyri, who looked like large blue butterflies, whispered to each other behind their translation devices. The rock-like granite lords shifted their massive bodies to get a better view. Everyone knew that the Veltar were testing the humans. Again, just like they had been doing for months, Vekvar's 4 eyes narrowed. "Laws. Always you speak of laws and procedures. Do you think words written on paper can stop a warrior's blade?" He stood up, his full height making him tower over. The seated human. In the old days, disputes were settled with strength. The strong took what they needed, and the weak learned their place. "The old days brought a lot of suffering," Jake replied calmly. "That's why we have the Galactic Council now, to solve problems without violence." This made several of the Veltar warriors laugh. It was not a pleasant sound. "Without violence," one of them repeated, like Jake had said something funny. "Tell me, human, what do you know of violence? Your species has never won a single battle against a real warrior race." Jake's smile never changed. "That's true. We've never had to fight anyone since joining the galactic community. We're grateful." For that, the Veltar took this as proof of human weakness. They began talking among themselves in their own language, not bothering to use the translation devices. Jake caught a few words he recognized: soft, prey, and easy conquest. Ambassador. Kretak of the hegemony, a species that looked like walking lizards, leaned forward. "Perhaps, War Commander, we should focus on the trade agreements we came here to discuss. The humans have always been reasonable in their negotiations." "Reasonable," Vekvar spat. "Yes, they are very reasonable. They give up what they want to. Avoid trouble. They back down when pressed. They choose words over action every time." He looked directly at Jake. "Your colonies produce valuable minerals. My people need those minerals. It would be easier for everyone if you simply gave us what we require." "I understand your people have needs," Jake said, still speaking in the same calm tone. "But our colonies were established legally, and our miners work hard to extract those resources. We're happy to trade with the Veltar Empire at fair market prices." "Fair market prices," Vekvar repeated slowly. "What if I told you that my fleet is already moving toward your colonies? What if I said that we will take what we need, with or without your permission?" The room went very quiet. Even the constant humming of the station system seemed to pause. The other delegates looked between the human and the Veltar commander, waiting to see how Jake would respond. Jake was quiet for a long moment. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small data pad, placing it carefully on the table. "War Commander, I have reports here from our colonies. Production figures, population numbers, that sort of thing. Would you like to see them?" Vekvar looked confused. "Why would I need to see your reports?" "Well," Jake said, his voice still friendly. "If you're planning to take our colonies, you should probably know what you're dealing with." "It's only fair." The Veltar commander laughed again. "You think your numbers will scare me? You think knowing how many soft humans live on each world will make me change my mind?" "Oh, I don't think it will scare you," Jake said, and for just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. "But it might surprise you." Before anyone could ask what he meant, Jake stood up and straightened his simple black suit. "I'll need to contact my government about your threats, War Commander. They'll want to know that the Veltar Empire is considering military action against human colonies." "Let them know," Vekvar said, waving one of his four hands dismissively. "Let them prepare their surrender speeches. My warriors grow tired of waiting for a real fight." Jake nodded politely. "I'll make sure they get the message." He picked up his datapad and headed toward the door, then paused. "War Commander, may I ask you something?" "Speak." "In all the years your empire has existed, have you ever fought a species that chose not to fight back?" Vekvar's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. "Many times. Prey species always choose surrender over death. It is the natural order." "I see," Jake said quietly. "And have you ever fought a species that could fight back, but chose not to?" The question seemed to puzzle the Veltar commander. "That makes no sense. Why would a species with the power to fight choose to be weak?" Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled again. It was the same polite smile he had worn throughout the meeting, but somehow it looked different now. "I guess you'll find out." With that, he left the room, leaving behind a gathering of aliens who were not quite sure what had just happened. After the human was gone, the other delegates began to murmur among themselves. The Zephyr ambassador fluttered her wings nervously. Did that seem strange to anyone else? The human's behavior at the end? "Strange how?" asked Kretak. "I don't know. Something about the way he spoke. Like he knew something we didn't." Vekvar slammed one of his massive fists on the table. "It doesn't matter what the human knows. Words are just words. When my fleet reaches their colonies, they will learn what real power looks like." But as the meeting broke up and the delegates returned to their ships, more than one of them found themselves thinking about the human's final question. None of them had ever fought a species that chose not to fight back. In their experience, every species fought as hard as they could when threatened. The idea that someone might have the power to fight, but choose not to, was something new. Something that didn't fit with everything they thought they knew about how the galaxy worked. On his way back to the human diplomatic ship, Jake Martinez activated a secure communication device. "This is Ambassador Martinez," he said quietly. "Please connect me to Admiral Williams, Priority 1. The response came quickly. "Admiral Williams here. How did the meeting go, Jake?" "About as expected. The Veltar are moving forward with their plans. They think we're going to roll over and surrender." There was a pause. "Are you requesting permission to explain the situation to them?" Jake looked out at the stars through the station's viewing ports. Somewhere out there, Veltar warships were moving toward human colonies, expecting easy victories against a species they saw as weak prey animals. "Not yet," he said. "Let them make the first move." "But Grace?" "Yes. Make sure our people are ready. All of them." "Already done. The colonies received their activation codes an hour ago." Jake nodded, even though the Admiral couldn't see him. "Good. I just hope we won't need to use them." But deep down, he knew they would. Dr. Lisa Parker sat in her small office aboard the research vessel New Horizon, staring at the message on her screen. The words were simple enough, but their meaning made her stomach feel tight with worry. The Veltar Empire had given humanity 72 hours to evacuate all colonies in their claimed territory. After that, they would take the worlds by force. Lisa had been studying alien species for 15 years, ever since humanity first joined the galactic community. She understood how other races thought, how they saw the world around them. And she knew exactly why the Veltar thought this would be easy. She pulled up her files on human-alien relations and began reading through the reports. Every single first contact had gone the same way. The aliens met humans and saw small, soft creatures with no natural weapons. No claws, no thick skin, no poison glands. Most alien species were bigger than humans, stronger, faster, or had some kind of natural advantage. The Veltar were not the first to underestimate humanity. The Granite Lords had tried to claim human mining operations 5 years ago. The Zephyri had attempted to force humans out of a trade route. The hegemony had demanded tribute from human colonies. Every time, the aliens expected humans to fight, back with desperation and lose quickly. Every time, humans had chosen to negotiate instead. They talked, they made deals, they found peaceful solutions. The aliens walked away thinking humans were weak, prey animals who survived by avoiding conflict. They never realized that humans were choosing peace, not surrendering because they had no choice. Lisa's communication device beeped. "Dr. Parker, this is Captain Foster. Please report to the bridge immediately." Lisa made her way through the ships. Corridors to the bridge. Captain Ryan Foster was standing in front of the main screen, his face serious. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm blue eyes, the kind of person who never seemed to panic no matter what happened. "Lisa, I need you to look at this," Ryan said, pointing to the screen. "We just received a distress signal from New Terra Colony." The screen showed a message that had been sent 3 hours ago. The words were formal, the kind of language used in official reports, but Lisa could hear the fear behind them. "This is Colony Administrator Kate Murphy reporting from New Terra. Veltar raider ships have entered our system. They are demanding immediate surrender and evacuation. We are requesting assistance from any human vessels in the area. We are also filing a formal complaint with the Galactic Council about this violation of our territorial rights." Ryan shook his head. "Kate Murphy is still filing complaints. The Veltar have 12 warships in her system, and she's talking about territorial rights." "What else is she supposed to do?" Lisa asked. "The colony has maybe 3,000 people. They're miners and farmers, not soldiers." "That's what the Veltar think too," Ryan said quietly. "They see Kate filing complaints and think she's helpless." Lisa looked at the message again. Something about the formal language bothered her. She had met Kate Murphy once at a conference on colonial development. Kate was a former military officer who had taken the administrator job because she wanted a quiet life. She was not the type of person who would file complaints while raiders threatened her people. "Ryan, when did we last update the colonial defense protocols?" "About 6 months ago." "Why? And all the colonies received the new activation codes?" Ryan's expression changed. "Yes, all colonies received them, even the ones that requested to opt out of the program." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Kate Murphy requested to opt out, didn't she? Yes, she said New Terra was too far from any potential conflict zones to need military support. She wanted to keep her colony purely civilian. They stared at each other for a moment. Then Ryan activated the ship's communication system. "Communications, get me Admiral Williams." "Priority channel." While they waited for the connection, Lisa thought about what she knew of human colonial policy. Most aliens believed that human colonies were defenseless settlements protected only by their distance from major powers. They saw the farmers and miners and thought these were weak people who had never learned to fight. They were wrong. The connection came through, and Admiral Grace Williams appeared on the screen. She was a woman in her 50s with short black hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Behind her, Lisa could see the bridge of a military vessel. "Captain Foster, Dr. Parker, I assume you're calling about New Terra." "Yes, Admiral. We received their distress signal. Are you sending ships to help them?" "I'm sending ships," Grace said, "but not to help them. I'm sending them to watch." Lisa felt confused. To watch what? To watch what happens when someone threatens a human colony and doesn't give them a choice about how to respond. The Admiral's image flickered for a moment as the transmission adjusted. "Dr. Parker, You've studied alien psychology for years. Tell me, what do the Veltar expect to happen when they attack New Terra? Lisa thought about it. They expect the colonists to panic. They think humans will either run away or surrender quickly. They believe humans are naturally weak and will avoid fighting at all costs. And what do you think will happen? Lisa was quiet for a long moment. She thought about Kate Murphy, the former military officer who had chosen to run a mining colony. She thought about the activation codes that had been sent to every human settlement, even the ones that didn't want them. She thought about the careful way human diplomats always avoided violence and how aliens interpreted that avoidance. I think, she said slowly, the Veltar are about to learn something about humans that no one has ever had to learn before. Grace nodded. The colonists on New Terra have been filing complaints and following proper procedures for 3 hours. They've given the Veltar every chance to back down. They've tried to solve this peacefully, just like humans always do. But the Veltar aren't backing down, Ryan said. No, they're not. And that means Kate Murphy is going to have to make a choice she's been hoping to avoid for the past 5 years. The communication system beeped with an incoming priority message. Ryan accepted it, and Kate Murphy's face appeared on a smaller screen. She looked tired, but her voice was steady. This is New Terra Colony. We have just received another demand for immediate surrender from the Veltar fleet. They are threatening to begin orbital bombardment in 1 hour if we do not comply. We are requesting immediate assistance from any human military vessels in the area. Lisa noticed that Kate was no longer talking about filing complaints. Kate, Grace said, this is Admiral Williams. I have ships moving toward your position, but they won't arrive in time. Understood, Admiral. What are my orders? You know what? Your orders are, Kate. You've had them for 6 months. Kate was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. Understood. New Terra Colony out. The transmission ended, leaving the three of them staring at blank screens. What happens now? Lisa asked. Now, Grace said, we see what happens when someone pushes humans too far. The Veltar think they're about to conquer a defenseless colony. They have no idea that they're about to attack a species that has been choosing not to fight. And if they do attack, Grace's expression was grim. Then they're going to learn why humans choose peace. It's not because we're weak. It's because we know what we're capable of when we stop choosing peace. The communication ended, leaving Lisa and Ryan alone on the bridge. Outside the ship's windows, stars moved slowly past as the New Horizon continued its journey through space. Somewhere out there, a small human colony was facing the most powerful military force in the sector. And for the first time in 50 years of galactic diplomacy, humans were going to have to show the galaxy who they really were. Lisa sat down in her chair and began preparing a report. She had a feeling that everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity was about to change. The Veltar had made the mistake of believing that choosing peace meant being unable to fight. They were about to learn the difference. Kate Murphy stood in the command center of New Terra Colony, watching 12 Veltar warships move into attack position above her world. The ships were massive, each one longer than the entire main settlement. Their weapon systems glowed with a red light that made the afternoon sky look like it was on fire. Kate had been the colony administrator for 5 years. Before that, she had been a major in the Human Defense Forces, specializing in asymmetric warfare and planetary defense. She had taken the job on New Terra because she wanted peace, wanted to build something instead of preparing for war. She had thought those days were behind her. She had been wrong. Administrator Murphy came a voice from the communication system. It was War Commander Dekvar himself, speaking from his flagship. You have 30 minutes to begin evacuation procedures. After that, we will take what we need by force. Kate looked around the command center. Her staff was there, 23 people who had been running the colony's day-to-day operations just that morning. Now they were all looking at her, waiting for her to tell them what to do. Sam Collins, the chief engineer, stepped forward. Kate, the transports are ready. We can have the first group of civilians off-world in 40 minutes. Kate nodded. Good. Start with the families who have young children, then the elderly and anyone with medical conditions. What about the rest of us? Asked Dr. Jenny Walsh. The colony's medical officer. Kate was quiet for a moment. She touched a small device on her belt, a communicator that had been sitting there unused for 6 months. The activation codes Admiral Williams had sent were stored in that device, along with orders she had hoped never to receive. Dr. Walsh, how many of our people have military backgrounds? Jenny thought about it. About 40%. Most of them served before coming here. Engineering backgrounds? Maybe 60%. We're a mining colony after all. Kate nodded. Sam, what's our manufacturing capacity? Sam looked confused. For what? For anything we might need. Kate, what are you? Thinking? Instead of answering, Kate activated the colony-wide communication system. Her voice echoed through every building, every mining station, every transport vehicle on New Terra. This is Administrator Murphy. All residents are to report to their designated emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill. We are implementing Emergency Protocol 7. Sam's face went pale. Kate, Protocol 7 was discontinued 3 years ago. No, Kate said quietly. It wasn't discontinued. It was classified. She turned to face her staff. Everyone who doesn't have a military background needs to leave this room now. Go help with the civilian evacuation. Half the people in the command center left. The ones who remained were all former soldiers, people who had served in various branches of human military before coming to New Terra. They looked at Kate with understanding in their eyes. Alex, Kate said, looking at Alex Rodriguez, her former security chief who now managed the mining operations. How long would it take to convert the mining equipment? Alex had been a combat engineer before coming to New Terra. He understood immediately what Kate was asking. The excavators? Maybe 2 hours. The transport vehicles would take longer. Tony, Kate said, turning to Tony Blake, who ran the colony's maintenance department. How much explosive material do we have? Tony had been a demolitions expert in the military. For mining, about 2,000 kilograms. But Kate, if we're talking about what I think we're talking about. I know what we're talking about, Kate said. I know exactly what we're talking about. She activated her personal communicator, the one with the activation codes. This is New Terra Colony Administrator Kate Murphy, authorization code 77 Alpha Red. I am requesting immediate activation of all dormant protocols. The response came immediately. Authorization confirmed. All protocols are now active. Good luck, Kate. Kate turned back to her staff. We have been filing complaints and following proper procedures for 6 hours. We have given the Veltar every chance to resolve this peacefully. They have chosen violence. She walked to the window and looked up at the enemy ships. They think we're helpless. They think we're weak. They think we'll run away or surrender because that's what humans always do. Kate, Alex said quietly, we could still evacuate. We could leave the colony and rebuild somewhere else. Kate shook her head. No, we're done running. We're done being pushed around by every species in the galaxy that thinks humans are easy targets. She turned back to her staff. Everyone needs to understand something. What we're about to do will change everything. Once we start, there's no going back. The galaxy will never look at humans the same way again. What exactly are we going to do? Asked Tony. Kate smiled, and for the first time in 6 hours, she looked like the military officer she used to be. We're going to show them what humans do when someone threatens our families. The communication system crackled to life. Human colony, this is War Commander Dekvar. Your time is up. Surrender now or face the consequences. Kate picked up the communicator. War Commander, this is Kate Murphy. I have a message for you. Speak. You have made a mistake. You have threatened human civilians. You have ignored our Attempts at peaceful resolution. You have chosen to use force against people who wanted only to live in peace. Vekvar's laughter came through the speaker. And what will you do about it, human? File another complaint. Kate's voice was very quiet when she replied, No, we're done filing complaints. She cut the communication and turned to her staff. Alex, start converting the mining equipment. Tony, prepare the explosives. Everyone else, you know what to do. The command center erupted into activity. People who had been farmers and miners and engineers just minutes before were now moving with military precision. They activated systems that had been hidden in the colony's infrastructure for years, systems that no alien species had ever suspected existed. Outside, the civilian evacuation continued. But inside the command center, something else was happening. The peaceful human colony of New Terra was transforming into something the Veltar had never seen before. Kate, Sam said from his position at the engineering station, the orbital defense platforms are coming online. What orbital defense platforms? Asked Jenny. Kate looked at her. The ones that have been disguised as communication satellites for the past 5 years. On the screens around the command center, weapon systems were activating. Mining equipment was being converted into military hardware. Civilian vehicles were being armed and armored. The peaceful farming and mining colony was becoming something else entirely. How long do we have? Kate asked. The first transport with civilians will be clear in 20 minutes, Alex reported. The second group will need 40 minutes. Kate nodded. Then we hold them off for 40 minutes. Kate, Tony said, there are 12 warships up there. Each one has more firepower than most planetary defense forces. I know, and we're just a mining colony. Kate looked at him. Are we? Tony thought about it. He looked around the command center at the weapons systems coming online, at the defensive positions being prepared, at the people who have been pretending to be civilians for years. No, he said slowly. I guess we're not. Kate activated the colony-wide communication system again. This is Administrator Murphy. All civilians are to continue evacuation procedures. All military personnel are to report to their combat stations. This is not a drill. She paused, then added, and to the Veltar fleet listening to this transmission, you wanted to see what happens when you push humans too far. You're about to find out. War Commander Vekvar heard the transmission aboard. His flagship. He looked at his tactical officer, a warrior who had served in dozens of campaigns. What do you think, Krevder? I think the humans are desperate, War Commander. They're trying to sound dangerous to make us hesitate. Vekvar nodded. Begin. The attack showed him what real power looks like. The first Veltar ship opened fire on New Terra Colony. The energy beam struck the ground and exploded in brilliant flashes of light and heat. But instead of helpless screams, the response that came from the colony was something else entirely. Something that made Vekvar's tactical officer step backward. From his console, War Commander, Krevder said, his voice shaking, they're shooting back. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. News of the fighting at New Terra had reached every major species in the galaxy, and no one could believe what they were hearing. The viewing screen showed live footage from the battle, transmitted by neutral observer ships that had been monitoring the situation. Ambassador Jake Martinez stood at the human delegation's podium, watching the alien representatives react to what they were seeing. The Zephyri were fluttering their wings in agitation. The Granite Lords were rumbling to each other in their deep stone voices. The hegemony delegates were hissing and clicking their tongues. War Commander Vekvar's image appeared on the main screen, transmitted from his flagship above New Terra. His 4 eyes were wide with something that might have been fear. Council! Members, he said, his voice shaking, the humans are not what we thought they were. Council Speaker Mordun, a tall creature with purple skin and multiple arms, called for order. War Commander, please report on the situation at New Terra Colony. Vekvar looked confused, like he was trying to understand something impossible. We attacked a mining colony. 3,000 civilians. We expected them to surrender or flee. And what happened? They fought back. Not just fought back. They were ready for us. They had weapons we never saw, defenses we never suspected. Our first bombardment was met with return fire from positions. That hadn't existed an hour before. The council chamber erupted in whispers and confused discussions. Jake watched it all with the same calm expression he had worn for years, but inside he felt tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of letting everyone think humans were weak. Impossible, said Ambassador Cleaver of the Zephyr. Human colonies have no military installations. We've surveyed them all. That's what we thought too, Dekvar replied. But somehow, a mining colony has orbital defense platforms. Somehow, civilian miners are fighting like trained soldiers. Somehow, farming equipment has been turned into weapons that can damage our warships. Dr. Ben Carter, the human xenopsychologist, stepped forward. Council Speaker, may I address the chamber? Mordill looked at Jake, who nodded. You may speak, Dr. Carter. Ben was a small man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent 20 years studying how different species thought, how they saw the world. He had written papers on interspecies psychology that were used in diplomatic training across the galaxy. Honored delegates, he began, what you're seeing at New Terra is not unusual behavior for humans. It's just behavior you've never seen before. Explain, demanded Ambassador Kretak of the Hegemony. Ben looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. Every species in this room has made the same mistake. You've looked at humans and seen what you expected to see. Small, soft creatures with no natural weapons. You assume that because we prefer peace, we're unable to fight. Are you saying humans have been lying to us? Asked Cleaver. No, Ben said quietly. We've been choosing not to fight. There's a difference. He activated a holographic display that showed human history. My species evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill us. We had no claws, no poison, no thick skin. We survived by becoming the most dangerous predators our planet had ever seen. The display showed images of ancient human history, hunting scenes, warfare, the gradual conquest of an entire world by creatures that looked weak compared to the animals they were fighting. We learned to use tools. We learned to work together. We learned to think like our enemies and predict what they would do. We didn't just survive. We dominated every environment on our planet. But you're peaceful, protested Kretak. You negotiate instead of fighting. Ben smiled sadly. We negotiate because we know what happens when we don't. We've seen what we're capable of when we stop choosing peace. The display changed, showing human wars throughout history. The aliens in the chamber went very quiet as they watched footage of human conflicts. The technology was primitive compared to what they use, but the intensity was something they had never seen before. When humans fight, Ben continued, we don't just try to win. We try to make sure the fight never happens. Again, we study our enemies until we understand them better than they understand themselves. We adapt faster than they can change. We never give up. War Commander Dekvar's voice came from the screen. The mining colony has been broadcasting something. A message they want the council to hear. Play it, ordered more single quotes done. Kate Murphy's voice filled the chamber. She sounded tired but determined. This is Administrator Murphy of New Terra Colony. For 6 hours, we tried to resolve this peacefully. We filed complaints. We followed procedures. We gave the Veltar every chance to back down. They chose violence. Instead, the transmission continued. We are not soldiers. We are farmers and miners and engineers. We came here to build something, not to fight. But when someone threatens our families, when someone attacks our homes, we remember what we are. There was a pause. Then Kate's voice came again, harder now. We are humans. We are the species that conquered an entire world with nothing but our brains and our refusal to give up. We are the species that turned war into an art form and peace into a choice. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in silence. Jake, Step forward. Honored delegates, Dr. Carter is right. We have been choosing peace. Every negotiation, every compromise, every time we backed down instead of fighting, those were choices. He looked around the chamber at faces that were beginning to show understanding. The Veltar attacked New Terra because they thought humans were weak. They thought we would run or surrender. They were wrong. What are you saying? Asked Morden. Jake's polite smile faded for the first time in years. I'm saying that for 50 years, every species in this galaxy has been safe from humans because we decided to be peaceful. We chose to negotiate instead of conquer. We chose to trade instead of take. We chose to build instead of destroy. He paused, letting that sink in. But choice works both ways. If we can choose to be peaceful, we can choose not to be. Ambassador Cleaver was trembling. Are you threatening us? No, Jake said quietly. I'm explaining the situation. The Veltar have forced us to defend ourselves. They've made us show the galaxy what we're capable of when we stop choosing peace. The main screen flickered to life again, showing the battle at New Terra. The Veltar warships were in retreat, damaged by weapons that had appeared from nowhere. The mining colony was still standing, still fighting. How? Whispered Kretak. How is a civilian colony defeating a military fleet? Jake looked at him. Because it was never just a civilian colony. None of our colonies are. We told ourselves. They were because we wanted to believe we could leave our nature behind. But when someone threatens our people, we remember what we are. Dr. Carter stepped forward again. Every human colony has former military personnel, engineers who know how to build weapons, farmers who understand tactics, miners who can make explosives. We never stopped being what we were. We just chose not to show it. Until now, Jake added. Now the galaxy gets to see what happens when you push humans too far. The chamber was completely silent. Every alien delegate was staring at the humans, seeing them clearly for the first time. What happens now? Asked more single quotes. Jake looked tired. Older than he had seen just hours before. Now we wait to see if the Veltar are smart enough to stop. If they retreat, maybe we can go back to pretending we're just peaceful traders and farmers. And if they don't? Jake's expression was grim. Then the galaxy is about to learn why humans spent 10,000 years conquering their own world before they ever thought about conquering the stars. The transmission from New Terra came through again. This is Kate Murphy. The Veltar fleet is withdrawing. But they're calling for reinforcements. They want to come back with more ships. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Then it's not over. No, he said to the council chamber. It's just beginning. Fleet Admiral Nancy Ross stood on the bridge of the human flagship Defender, watching the tactical display show 63 Veltar warships moving toward New Terra. The enemy fleet was 3 times larger than the force that had first attacked. The colony, War Commander Dikvar had called in every ship he could find, determined to crush what he saw as a human rebellion. Nancy was 62 years old and had been in the human defense forces for 40 years. She had never fired a shot in anger, never fought a real battle. For her entire career, her job had been to prepare for wars that never came, to train for fights that were always avoided through diplomacy. Today, that was going to change. Admiral, said Captain Eric Thompson, commander of the destroyer Relentless, all ships report ready for combat. The crews are asking for final orders. Nancy looked around the bridge at her officers. These were people who had spent decades studying warfare, planning battles, designing weapons and tactics. They had done all this while hoping they would never need to use any of it. Open a channel to all ships, Nancy ordered. Channel open, Admiral. Nancy took a deep breath. This is Admiral Ross to all vessels in Task Force Terra. For 50 years, the human defense forces have existed to fight wars we hoped would never happen. We trained, we prepared, we planned, all while our diplomats found peaceful solutions to every conflict. She paused, looking at the tactical display. Today, that changes. The Veltar have forced us to defend our people. They've made us show the galaxy what human military doctrine really looks like. On ships throughout the fleet, human crews listened to their admiral's words. These were men and women who had joined the military knowing they might never see combat, who had spent their careers as a deterrent force that no one took seriously. The enemy expects us to fight like every other species they've encountered. They expect us to meet their ships head-on, to trade firepower until one side breaks. They're wrong. Captain Eric Thompson smiled grimly from his position on the Relentless. He understood what Nancy was saying. Human military doctrine had been developed over centuries of warfare on Earth. It was based on principles that no alien species had ever encountered. All ships implement Protocol Omega. Show them what humans do when we stop pretending to be civilized. The human fleet scattered. Instead of forming the traditional battle lines that every other species used, the ships spread out across space in a pattern that looked random to alien observers. But there was nothing random about it. War-Commander Dekvar watched from his flagship as the human. Vessels took positions that made no tactical sense. What are they doing? Why are they spreading out like that? His tactical officer, Krevder, studied the display. I don't understand their formation, War Commander. They're making themselves vulnerable to concentrated fire. Good. Begin the attack. Target their flagship first. The Veltar fleet opened fire, sending massive energy beams toward the human ships. But something strange happened. The human vessels didn't try to block the shots or return fire immediately. Instead, they moved. They moved in ways that no alien ship had ever moved before. They twisted and spun through space, using their engines not just for propulsion, but for precise maneuvering. They turned the three-dimensional battlefield into something fluid, something alive. How are they moving like that? Crafter asked. Watching human ships dodge between energy beams that should have been impossible to avoid, Captain Eric Thompson was demonstrating exactly what Nancy had meant. The Relentless spun through a cloud of Veltar fire, its engines firing in patterns that turned the ship into something more like a dancer than a weapon of war. Weapons officer, Eric said calmly, target the enemy flagship's engine section. Use the debris from their missed shots as cover. The weapons officer understood immediately. Humans had learned to use everything as a weapon, everything as a tool. The chunks of metal and energy that the Veltar ships were throwing around became shields, hiding places, even improvised projectiles. The Relentless fired a single shot that struck the Veltar flagship's engines. But it wasn't the shot that did. The damage, it was what happened next. Eric had calculated exactly where the disabled ship would drift, exactly how its momentum would carry it into the path of its own fleet's weapons. War Commander Vekvar watched in horror as his own ships. Fire struck his flagship. How did they know where we would drift? Sir, Krevder said, his voice shaking, I think they calculated it. They knew exactly what would happen when they hit our engines. Across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out. Human ships were fighting in ways that defied everything the Veltar understood about space combat. They used physics as a weapon, turned the enemy's own fire against him, made the vast emptiness of space into an ally. Captain Maria Santos, commanding the cruiser Vigilant, demonstrated another aspect of human warfare. Instead of targeting the Veltar ships directly, she began targeting the space around them. Her weapons created clouds of superheated plasma that forced the enemy vessels to change course. They're hurting us, Krefter realized. The humans aren't trying to destroy us directly. They're making us move where they want us to go. He was right. The human fleet was treating the Veltar ships like prey animals, using fear and confusion to drive them into carefully prepared positions. It was a hunting strategy, the same kind of tactics that had allowed early humans to bring down creatures many times larger than themselves. Admiral Nancy Ross watched the battle unfold from the Defender. The human ships were outnumbered 3-1, but they were winning, not through superior firepower or stronger shields, but through superior thinking. Admiral, her communications officer said, We're receiving a transmission from the Veltar. Flagship, put it through. Vekvara's image appeared on the screen. The war commander looked confused and frightened. Human Admiral, I request a ceasefire to discuss terms. Nancy studied him for a moment. You attacked our colony without provocation. You brought reinforcements when your first attack failed. Now you want to discuss terms. We did not understand what we were facing. No, Nancy said quietly. You didn't. You thought you were attacking weak prey animals. Instead, you attacked the species that spent 1,000,000 years becoming the most successful predators in their corner of the galaxy. She gestured to the tactical display where Veltar ships were trying desperately to escape the trap the human fleet had created. This is what human warfare looks like, War Commander. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure the fight never happens again. What do you want from us? Nancy's expression was cold. Complete withdrawal from human space. Formal apology to the new Terra colony and reparations for the damage you've caused. And if we refuse, Nancy looked at him for a long moment. Then, we continue this demonstration until you understand that humans are not the peaceful weaklings you thought we were. Around them, the human fleet continued its deadly dance. Veltar ships that had seen unstoppable hours before were now fleeing, their crews finally understanding that they had made a terrible mistake. You have 1 hour to decide, Nancy said. After that, we stopped being polite. The transmission ended, leaving Dekvar staring at a blank screen. Around his flagship, his mighty fleet was in complete disarray, outfought and outfought by humans who had spent 50 years pretending to be harmless. On the bridge of the Defender, Nancy turned to her officers. Continue the demonstration, but remember, we're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to educate them. Captain Thompson's voice came through the communication system. Understood, Admiral. We'll teach them gently. But there was nothing gentle about the way the human ships moved through space, turning the Veltar fleet's strength against itself. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time, they were seeing what humans were really capable of when they stopped choosing peace. The lesson was just beginning.